Did you know that we're born into this world being innately nervous, wary, or scared of specific type of stimuli? Particularly those ones that go bump in the night, or creepy crawlies, or even being in high, high, high places. If you've ever felt butterflies in your tummy as you look over the edge of a really high stairwell, you were born that way, as Lady Gaga would say. You see, our brain comes well equipped to make sure that we survive, and it carries within it tons of different data points that have been passed down through the course of evolution to make sure that we do our best to stay alive in the present day. And these are the data points that have largely killed enough of our species to this day and time that our brains put a special tag on it and said, I'm going to remember that this experience has once killed other versions of me in the past and be a little wary about it. And no, I'm not talking about past lives, folks. I'm talking about evolution. These are called unconditioned threat stimuli, and we all have a whole host of them in our brain. And when people ask me about phobias, that is one of the key things that I bring up first and foremost, especially when a patient presents for the treatment of a phobia, because a phobia most of the time is linked into one of those unconditioned threat stimuli waking up and getting glued onto the top of our amygdala as a little receptor that is now going to ping for any type of stimuli that activates that unconditioned threat stimuli. You see, we're supposed to be wary and nervous of these types of stimuli. We're not supposed to feel super at ease and comfortable in tiny, tight places. And yet we can still go into those spaces. Except if we're claustrophobic, right? Because if we're claustrophobic, our brain goes, I'm going to die if I go into a tiny, tiny place. I can't go in there. And so it's these unconditioned threat stimuli made much bigger, vibrant, and more bold, and our amygdala linking into them and running our brain's story or narrative about what those types of stimuli mean. And of course, because our brain wants us to stay alive, it can sometimes cast a wide net, meaning that one type of stimulus, being perhaps in a cave, didn't feel so good. But then the brain goes, you know what? Being on a plane kind of feels like being in a cave or being in a box or in a closet or whatever it might be. And so we're not going to get on a plane. And that's where phobias can start to get pretty confusing for clients and therapists alike when they're trying to work with phobias. But if we go down into the core fundamentals of an unconditioned threat stimuli, then we can start to piece apart when was the moment that that trigger showed up and woke up that little unconditioned stimuli in the brain and said, we're super gluing it onto the amygdala now. Pay attention to it because it is going to come to life anytime we feel anything resembling it. So, what are those types of stimuli? Like I said, things that go bump in the night, being in really tight places, being in dark, dark, dark spaces, being in the wide open. Why? Well, airborne predators. Think about that, right? Or being underwater, drowning. That's an obvious one. There's so many, and actually just Google it, you'll find out there's so many more. And so, if you are somebody who's experiencing a phobia and you're a little confused as to where this crazy experience came from, well, guess what? It's your brain being a brain. And at some point, your brain woke up and said, that thing that I'm now phobic about, it could kill me. And it's your brain working really hard to keep you safe. And the good news is we now have healing tools, and we know when Amy the amygdala is involved, and of course she's involved in anything fear related, havening is our number one go-to because it delinks those little receptors in the brain and lets your brain know you're safe here and now. You don't need to worry about it anymore.